One, two. Hello, my name is Simone Roche, and you are very welcome at today's webinar, which is The Future is Physics, in partnership with the Institute of Physics. And I'm delighted to be joined by Katherine Platt from the Institute here to talk about why this webinar is so important and why we're starting this conversation as part of our webinar and podcast box set, which all follows on from the release of the Limitless report, which reveals eye-watering figures around the lack of diversity in the profession. And also shows that the report shows that unfortunately too many young people's opportunities are being limited, and too many young people are being made to feel that they can't do physics, they don't fit in, they don't belong. It's all wrong, isn't it? Katherine Platt, welcome from the Institute of Physics. Thank you so much for partnering with us on this amazing conversation, this amazing webinar.
Hi Simone, hi everyone, thank you for having me.
Tell us about the Institute of Physics. Who are you and what do you do?
So the Institute of Physics is the learned society and professional body for physics in the UK and Ireland. Essentially, we exist to support and grow the physics community. And really importantly, we exist to make sure that physics is accessible for everyone, regardless of your background.
And tell us about the Limitless campaign. I've talked about that at the start of the show, but just tell us a little bit more.
So the Limitless campaign is the campaign to support and inspire young people from backgrounds currently underrepresented in the physics community to carry on with physics after the age of 16. So as you said, unfortunately, we know that there are some groups underrepresented in the physics community. So girls, young people from low socioeconomic backgrounds, young people with disabilities, young LGBT plus people, and young people of Black Caribbean heritage. They're all underrepresented in physics. And unfortunately, we know that these young people often hear negative messages and stereotypes about what physics is and who it's for. And the Limitless campaign is there to make sure that all of those young people hear about physics, they hear that it's for them, that anyone can do it, and that there's a huge range of jobs that you can get to with a post-16 physics qualification.
And we've got a huge community out there, haven't we, across Northern Power Women and the Power Collective, 95,000 amazing individuals out there in and from the North and beyond. So how can the community out there get involved in the campaign?
So the Institute of Physics and the Limitless campaign would love and are calling upon anyone with a post-16 physics qualification, anyone working in a physics-related job, whether it's an obvious physics qualification or an obvious physics job or not. We know that physics leads to lots of unusual careers as well. We're calling on those people to get out into their local schools, get out into their local communities and tell young people and their families all about where physics has taken them.
Katherine, thank you so much for joining us today. And now, without further ado, I'm delighted to bring into our fantastic webinar guest to bring the world of physics to life, because physics teaches young people to understand and solve complex problems, not just on paper and not just in theory, but the kind of things that exist everywhere. You know, it's a real troubleshooting thing is physics, you know, and it's the kind of problems that exist everywhere in the world and just waiting to be solved. So whether it's misconceptions about what physics is, being denied the opportunity due to really, really challenging stereotypes or barriers due to gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, disability, or social background, exactly what Katherine was talking about, something is making people turn away from physics or not even turn to it. So what can we do about it today? And I've got a crew with, I think it's a physics crew I think we've got joining us today. So welcome Krystina, Clara, Amelia and Nile to today's webinar, a fantastic group of individuals with all different experiences across the world of physics. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you, and also to sort of say who they are, where they come from, and what is their connection with physics. Clara, can I come to you first? Clara, you are on mute, but it's okay. Can physics solve that problem? Auto music, say.
We probably can, but you know, we haven't got the technology yet to figure out when we're on mute. My apologies. Yeah, so I'm Clara Barker. I'm a material scientist at Oxford University. So I'm an interloper in many ways. But I was, grew up in Manchester. So I am a northerner at heart and spent most of my life in Manchester. And yes, so I'm in Oxford now, and I work in the Centre for Applied Superconductivity as a research fellow and as a PGRA. So, yeah, that's what I do.
Amazing. Thank you. Krystina, welcome.
Hello. My name's Krystina Pearson-Rampeearee. I'm an aerospace engineer based in Liverpool, working in the Preston area. But I've been an aerospace engineer for about 11, 12 years now, and I did physics as part of my A levels alongside chemistry, maths, and biology. Physics was really important to engineering because it's the fundamentals, and I really enjoyed it when I was in school, and that's why I carried on and used it in engineering.
Thank you. Thanks, Krystina. Nile Henry, welcome to today's webinar.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nile Henry. I'm from Manchester, and I'm the founder and CEO of a trailblazing social enterprise called the Blair Project. What we do is that we teach young people and adults how to retrofit used petrol vehicles and turn them into high-performance electric vehicles. So with young people, it's through the medium of motorsport, so converting petrol cars into electric, and then they get to test and race it to see who's the fastest and the most energy efficient. But with adults, we're teaching them how to service and maintain electric vehicles. Our key aim is to diversify the STEM workforce so that we're inspiring the next generation of innovators, technicians, scientists, and engineers, and even entrepreneurs that the UK needs to reach net zero. And I suppose for me, my background in physics is that I studied it at college to be a web developer. And now I'm part of a consortium called Planet Possibility, where we are going into schools and educating young people around physics and hopefully inspiring and infuse them to pursue physics-related careers. So, and I'll talk a bit more about that later on in the webinar.
I love that, Planet Possibility. It's just got a positive vibe before you even start. I also feel like there's some like t-shirt branding in there as well, and some like nice merch, I reckon, in that. Amelia, welcome. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast.
Oh, no, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name's Amelia Rose. I'm an executive researcher in the recruitment sphere, and I recruit top level physicists, STEM professionals in general, but with a big focus on kind of geoengineering and geotechnical roles at quite a high level. So promoting diversity and inclusion is a big thing of what I do, and educating as well is a big thing. And my background is in geophysical sciences, so I'm from quite a difficult background in the northwest region, a beautiful place called Warrington. Those who know will know. And I was never really taught about physics or science in general, really, when I was growing up, but I had a big affinity to it, kind of had a big pull, and ended up doing science A levels and then went on to do geophysical sciences as my degree. And now I use that every day in a very abstract way. And I think, again, I'm going to resonate with a lot of the other participants here. I think one of my big focuses, both in my current job and generally in life, is encouraging people to embrace and research what things can get you, because I certainly didn't know my role existed when I went into my field, and I love what I do, and I think it's just not very well taught about.
And I think this is one of the challenges, isn't it? And one of the opportunities, actually, or one of the possibilities, if we go for Planet Possibility, Nile, is kind of unearthing. Who'd have thought that, we've talked about recruitment, we're talking about engineering, we're talking about motorsport, we're talking about lots of things, are very, very clever and smart things out there. But it's actually, how do we make that a door that is welcome for all? How do we we make that somewhere that people can go? And so when we were invited by the Institute of Physics to join together on creating this webinar and podcast series, for me it was about reaching out and finding brilliant role models. So thank you for letting me reach out to you, whether I grabbed you on LinkedIn, whether I grabbed you in the middle of a convention, whether you're part of the community that we've built and you said yes. I really appreciate it, because actually the story and your experience is really important and can really add into how we can shift this and do something about it. But why is there such a lack of diversity in physics, do we think? Krystina, and I start with you just on that one, just as a quick sort of opener from each of us.
So my thoughts are confidence, especially with young girls choosing not to pursue it, even though they perform very well. So that's what my thoughts are.
Nile, why do you think we're lacking diversity?
For me, I think it's lack of role models. There aren't too many people promoted within the media or with, let's say, certain communities like the black communities, where there are people working within the sciences being put forward. So I think that's one of the major reasons we're not seeing much of it. And I think by things like Planet Possibility and for us going into schools and educating people around the careers around physics and getting involved in activities which are quite fun, which I will say, you can then inspire and infuse those kids to want to go off down that pathway of a physics related career.
Is that positive language? I like that. You use very positive language now, sort of infuse, role model, the possibility. It's, it all feels very open and I could go through that door. Why, Amelia, do you think that, we have this lack of diversity?
I think a big thing for me in terms of the lack of diversity comes in, and again, I'm going to resonate here, is modeling and role modeling. I think as a society, we're more and more seeing, as even if we take, for example, these like Disney princesses, which is very rudimentary, right? You now have this influx of really young, beautiful women, young girls who are, maybe of island descent or Black, African, of these so many different varieties. Now they're getting finally seen, and there's all these beautiful videos up there going, "Mummy, that's me," and I think that's beautiful. And I think there's the similar resonance within physics and within all STEM fields. If there was more of a acknowledgement of people coming into schools, both from a disadvantaged background and people saying, "Look, I've been in your shoes and this is where I am now," but also from a diversity perspective of having, as you say, as you resonated with, in terms of going into schools as a as a successful Black man in science is going to be a really key thing, because then people can see that. And very much a similar thing within as a feminist as well. I think it's more and more women in science, the better.
Absolutely, high five in that one, Clara.
Yeah, again, I'm also going to resonate the role models thing. I mean, I after 12 years, I realized that, I'm trans and I had to transition. And in 13, 14 years in STEM, I'd met 2 out gay people, no trans people. So after my PhD and after some postdocs, I was leaving science for that reason. And I only really stayed in by accident, which is a whole nother story. So part of that is the role models, I mean, if you assume that you can't be in it, then you're not going to think you can. And once I did transition, it turned out that nobody really cared. But I think that the other thing is that admitting that there are problems, that we do face these barriers. And this is what's so important with reports like this, because for years and years, we've been told, physics doesn't have a diversity problem, or STEM doesn't have a diversity problem. And we're all saying, well, we think there is. And now we're actually starting to look at it. And it's like, what do you know? We've got the data. It turns out that there is a problem with this. In the UK, women have been allowed to go to university for 100 years. And they've been allowed to study physics. And I'm saying allowed to study physics for 60 years, really. And we're at the stage where we've got less than 20% of people in physics are women. So, just allowing people to do physics isn't enough. We actually have to start driving diversity and pushing diversity forward. And so, like I say, steps like this, having this sort of report is really, really important to help do that.
And, we talked about, why is there, and, I think just even touching on there, Clara, why do we need this diverse pool of talent in the physics industry? So my response will be, it's 2023, just saying. But, it's beyond, we talk, about wider diversity and, not having groupthink and, having everyone's voice at the table, etc. But I think it's even more important than that, isn't it, in the world of physics, why we need that diversity, why we need to increase on that 20% of women. It's lesser in across global majority, isn't it? But it's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say it's I'd say it's really important. Like I say, it's just that. Oh my goodness, I'm muddling my words. Can I take a second?
Of course you can.
Sorry.
And Krystina, just let us know where, you talked about studying physics at school. Where can that qualification take you?
Well, I think that there's such a range of possibilities, and that's the kind of thing that needs to be brought out. I chose to do engineering, but everyone here on this call is doing different things from physics. So it just shows that there are lots of different opportunities out there, some that you may not know about yet. There's so many new careers that are coming up, and that's the exciting thing about physics. It can be used in so many different sectors, and it's really exciting that there's lots of different options out there.
And I always think one of the very first conversations I had with Katherine at the Institute of Physics was highlighting the fact that bugle crisps were made by the science of physics. And I was got straight away at that. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so in. Not because I'm a crisp fan. Yes, who am I kidding? I'm a crisp fan. But it's how can we tell more of those stories? How can we, sort of, sometimes I think the language can be, sort of very long words and think, oh gosh, that's not me. I'm not clever enough to know that or be that, how can we overcome some of that, Nile, because you're using physics to change the world, aren't you? If you like, in what you're doing, you're bringing the world of motorsport and science of physics into what you're doing every day and turning into in physics for good, isn't it, into the kind of e-world.
No, absolutely. So at the Blair Project, when we first set it up, it was about working with young people from underserved backgrounds and getting them involved in STEM activities that will allow them to, go into careers, rewarding careers within the digital tech and engineering sector. But the way we decided to do that was to use the form of motorsport and going into schools and teaching young kids 21st century technologies like 3D printing, computer-aided design, working with battery technologies, e-motors, powertrain systems. And, the kind of people that we work with are young kids who pretty much like myself, who, didn't get a world of access to these new technologies or opportunities like this. And so we decided, rather than, work with kids in more leafier areas, let's bring the technologies to those young people who would desperately need it. And a lot of those young people, and especially their parents and even some of the teachers, aren't aware of some of the careers within digital tech and engineering. So we want to bring that technology to educate them. And, I will say a really positive stat: in the 9 years we've been going, 95% of the young people that we've worked with have gone on to a career within a STEM related industry. And, all because, an organization like ours were willing to come in and educate and just inspire the young people, and just saying, you don't have to be the brains of Britain. Because some people think, if they're not academic, they can't do it. Whereas some people learn best just through using their hands and just being practical. And, just to see the change from when that young person first started off, where their confidence wasn't or self-esteem wasn't too high, or the fact that they got hands-on, stuck in and built something, and then they can show their parents, their teachers and their colleagues, the young people that they go to school with, what they've done. It really lifts them up, and then they want to go and study, let's say, whatever, engineering or coding, whatever, further, and lead to a good career. So.
And I think that's you bringing it to life, isn't it? I'll bring it to life with a packet of crisps, right? With my bugle crisps, and but I think it's finding different stories to resonate with different audiences. And Clara, bringing you back in around, sort of the more we can story tell, that's got to be if we're talking about solutions here as well, and how can we tackle this, how can we tell those different stories? How do you tell a story of what you do?
Yeah, it's funny. I use a packet of crisps as a story as well. That's how I discovered material science, because they put the metal on the inside of plastic to keep our crisps fresh. And that's how I discovered this entire world that I've been living in for the last 15 years. So I try and tell stories through crisp packets as well, but also by relating it to everyday objects. I mean, when I'm talking about what thin film materials are, I talk about the thin films that are on my glasses, on windows, on our touch screens, relating it to everyday objects, but also getting different people to tell their stories, having a whole range. I just tell one story, I just tell my story, and that's what's amazing. Having all different people telling their stories really helps bring that to life, because we all have different experiences and different stories that we're bringing. So it's just wonderful to have more stories to draw from, really.
And I think you're right. It's that relatability, isn't it? And it's that, does that fall into your world as well, Amelia? When you're, we talk about having diverse terms, you're in the field of recruitment and very much around sort of this sector in this area, but it's that relatability, the stories that some of those roles that you're involved in filling, you must have come across some great examples out there.
Yeah, and this is it. I think more people do need to be aware of the variety of roles, and I think that's one of the key barriers, right? Is when you think of physics, you think of an astronomer, and you think of space, and then you might think of someone in a lab coat doing ridiculously long hours over, very similar to kind of a bench chemist type deal. And I just don't think people realize. So I've placed people who are utilizing their physics to help bring the weather reports and predict extreme weather, which has gone on to save, so the people in these roles have gone on to save hundreds of thousands of lives, because they've managed to predict a tornado out in the States and be able to get people evacuated. Like, there's a really big impact. But there's also, so in my degree, I did geophysics, and a lot of people, and the path I was going down was within seismology. And again, there's a human aspect to it, which is kind of saving lives and predicting earthquakes. But there's also a really interesting physical element to it, where you're interfacing the different layers of the earth with its physical properties. And it's very cool, because this is one of these things where you are on a hike, and everybody, when you're going on a walk, and all of a sudden you start understanding all the substructures underneath you, and there's a power to that, and that's all from physics. It's all from the fundamentals of physics, and there's so many different fields. I've placed material scientists, which I'm sure you'll resonate with, but who they've gone on to develop hydrogels, and who are developing aerogels, which are 100% fireproof. So it literally is the future of sort of fireproofing technology. Forensic accident investigators with a physics background, because that basic level of physics, and even understanding that in an in-depth way, could help solve crimes. And there are so many different avenues. And I think if we had representatives from these fields go into schools and put out there, you don't need to be an astronaut, you don't need to be stuck in a lab, you could be out in the field going on a hike, and that could be your job. And I think that's the message.
No, and I think you're right. We talk so many, for so long, for probably a decade now, if not more, about STEM, and we need more people in STEM. But actually, if we could say we need more people to change the world, we need more people to be part of the construction of everyday articles. We need more people to be involved. Well, let's go for crisps. We need more people to be. It's that relatability. We always talk, don't we, about relatable role models, but actually, this is relatable impact, isn't it, of what you're doing? And I think I know. I actually did get a GCSE, one of my very few GCSEs or GCEs in those days. I don't know. I've lost track now. It's a long time for me. Was in physics, but it took me a separate conversation with had to have an extra class after school because I didn't understand it. And then when somebody put it into, you're at the top of them, here's me, I'm going to become a physics expert now. Literally, Amelia, you're going to be placing me in one of those roles soon. But, you talk about kinetic and potential energy, but the way it was explained to me, I understood because it was part of everyday life, being at the top of a mountain or the bottom. Anyway, I'm literally digging myself a hole here. So I'm going to move on. Krystina, opportunities for physics and fuses across the north. what's out there? Again, we've it's brilliant this, because we're pulling out some of those examples as we go. You know, we've talked about motorsport, we've talked about everyday, you know, sort of the lenses, we've talked about, you know, changing the world. What else are you seeing out there? What other examples of working in the world of physics?
Oh, so many opportunities. I don't even know where to start. Yeah, in the north. So
Or
it just depends.
beyond the world's I mean, one of the team that works for me, she's actually now working over in Boston. You know, she's working over there. She's you know, she's gone back into academia, but is now working over there and working on projects over there. So it could take you anywhere, right? It's, you know, the north is our oyster, right?
Yeah, no, it can take you there. And you know, obviously, you know, there's academia, there's you know, working all over the world, and especially with like careers like engineering, within engineering, there's so many different sectors. You can work kind of out in the field, you can work in an office, you can work in a lab, you know, it's up to you. It depends like what you want to do. There is the opportunity there. It just depends on what suits you best and what most excites you.
And that is probably more looking at the other way around then, isn't it? You don't have to, it's not about wearing a lab coat, you know, it's not explicitly, that's not the only fit for you. So it's, you know, it's actually, there is something there for everyone. And now what would you say, and I'm sure you're doing this as part of Planet Possibility, what would you say to someone out there who thinks that physics simply isn't for them?
Do you know what? I always just sum it up as, in terms of a career in physics, it's just having a curious mind, just thinking about why the things work the way that they do, and just keep asking that why. I think as long as you have that, then yeah, you can transition into a career in physics. For what we're doing, as I say, we're generally working with young people who predominantly have been told that, you know, they can never go into like that kind of career, or, you know, it's not for them, or, you know, grades are low, and it's just saying, you know what, let's do it in a way to make it fun. So we've got a mobile STEM truck that we take to schools and youth clubs across Greater Manchester, and we get them tinkering with activities like, you know, doing a wind tunnel where they can see how aerodynamics work. We get them involved in 3D printing, and you can see the young people, they're very curious about it. Oh wow, this is how it works. And, you know, then they're like, oh, I want to get one of these, and I want to give it a go. And so from going into schools and doing those activities, they then want to do like online STEM clubs with our organization, where we do activities every single week with the young people to keep that momentum going. And what we started to see is grades really start to improve within the classroom. But even from, you know, let's say post high school, you know, there's a lot of training programs where you can get involved, where you can do, let's say, 12-week boot camps in whether it's web development, coding, or there's other kind of boot camps that you can get involved in and get real hands-on skills, and then progress into the world of work. So I just say if you have got a curious mind and you're always pondering why things work the way they are, get in touch with organizations like ours, and we can happily help you on your journey if you want to get started today.
That is absolutely brilliant. And Clara, you know, we talked at the start about physics teaches young people to understand and solve complex problems. You know, Amelia's talked about solving crimes out there. Is this one of the key ways that we can challenge that perception of what does a physicist look like? Oh, by the way, Krystina, is that one of your badges? Krystina, you need to check her out. We'll put the link in the comments or in the notes, but Krystina creates a range of badges that, you know, this is what an engineer looks like, this is what an entrepreneur looks like, this is what a physicist looks like.
I do, and £1.50 goes to the Institute of Physics Limitless Campaign.
So. There we go. Look out there. But again, it's challenging those perceptions, isn't it? Is that another way we can challenge those perceptions, Clara?
Yeah, I absolutely love it when I go into a school and they're told, oh, we've got this scientist from Oxford University coming to talk to us. And then what turns up but a woman who's trans, who is covered in tattoos, probably maybe has like bright pink or blue hair. And you can just see the look on the young people's faces going, what? I thought we were getting a scientist from Oxford. And it's like, yeah, I am. You know, I am one of those people. And so, yeah, challenging those perceptions is really, really important. And also just letting people know that, you know, we all have different times in our lives as well where we go through stuff. I went through a lot of mental health issues when I was younger, and I didn't actually get A-levels. I didn't finish school. but I still managed to, a few years later, when I was in a better place, I was able to, go on to a different course, and that allowed me to do a degree. And again, not everyone wants to go to university, but I was able to take a break, and then I was able to get back in when I was ready and when I was able to do that. And I worked my way around and did different courses. And I mean, now, from someone that grew up on a council estate and didn't finish school to, someone that works as a scientist at Oxford University, there are different paths. And part of that was flexibility as well. Part of that was seeing opportunities that came up. And I worked hard when those opportunities came up. There's partial luck, but you've got to make the most of those opportunities and see what else is out there. So, between flexibility and all that lot, there are lots of different routes for people to get through into physics careers.
Absolutely. And I think it is that role modeling. You literally, I mean, when we were looking to create this webinar, I think you were the first person that jumped at, I'm in, what time is it? When are we doing it? I'm on. It's really important to be that visible role model and being that visible example of going, actually, it's about going, this is what you think a physicist looks like. But it's not just that. It's also you're role modeling that, as in there's no one straight path. There's not just one route in, so like you said, I didn't go to uni. I didn't complete this. I didn't do this. There's not an out the box model where I think sometimes you can have that perception that it is solely for very educated and experienced and often privileged kind of individuals, where you've just kind of wiped the slate with that clear. And do you see that, Amelia, as well? We've talked about the role modeling, and you're dealing with a lot of different roles that you're recruiting for, but it's something we've got to do, is it? We want to encourage a more diverse workforce and a more diverse background into physics. Is this, being part of breaking the stereotypes and breaking the myths, isn't it? Do you see that across the landscape of people that you're recruiting?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's quite interesting that it's something that I probably have a unique insight versus a lot of people in the variety of people I've interviewed, I've spoken with and interacted with across STEM, but, particularly within physics. And I do think, there is a lot of incredibly strong role models out there, and it's changing for the better. I think this is an area and a background that is getting so much better as the years go on. People are becoming more and more aware and more open to learning, even people who historically would have been very stuck in their ways. But I think there are some key fundamentals that kind of are helping this and will continue to help this. But I do think it's the case of breaking the stereotype and developing a fun relationship with science. And I think it really resonated me when obviously in this we've talked about people going with that. I think that van sounds incredible, taking that to schools, because that's exactly the sort of thing we need to continue to break these stereotypes, to break into people's minds with how these things can be applied. It's going there and making a fun relationship with science and making a correlation that it isn't just this really stuffy, boring thing that cis white het men do. It's really exciting, and it can be presented in so many different ways, and you can do it however you want to do. You can do it, as we've said, from the lab, you can be in the field, you can be wherever you want, you can do, and there's so many different ways. But I think the benefits of this also come through massively within a diverse team.
Absolutely, without a shadow of doubt. And you know what, it's been really great to hear from sort of different backgrounds, different experiences, different education, and different sort of practical aspects. Sort of look at the stuff that you're doing in schools with the Blair Project and sort of changing the perception. The fact that 95% of people who've been through your program, Nile, have kind of gone into STEM. I mean, literally, why the government are not knocking down your door, I don't know, but maybe they're on their way. It's really, what an amazing conversion is that. And I think there's we've all got, we talked at the start, didn't we, about you know, what can we do about this? We've talked about the statistics, you know, we've talked about, is it misconceptions, you know, what is it, what's the problem that we can do, what can we do, you know, to stop putting people off it? What can we ask people to do out there? How can we change and reframe what physics is? And, you know, as I say, we've heard lots from different people, but how can we get more people involved? As in, you know, physics is a team game. Everyone can be part of this change. This isn't just one person doing this, it's the sum of all those parts. So what are the things out there that organizations and individuals can do out there, I think, to help us try and to break this? We've talked about role modeling. You know, we've talked about the practicalities, we've talked about the storytelling, we've talked about going in and speaking to schools as well. Is there anything else out there that we can be doing to really knock this down once and for all, so we're not having this conversation about lack of diversity, lack of role models in physics in 5 years' time? What can we be doing out there as well? Any and there's no quick win with any of this, is there? You know, this has got to be intentional and part of a bigger piece. But anything, Clara, anything that sort of comes to mind for you, that just that one thing, that's that one takeaway that people watching this can pass on to people that they know, to go, actually, you should have a look at that. I think it's you know, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, it does still tie into the role models, but, you know, highlighting the brilliant work that different people are doing. We're seeing more and more books of diverse engineers or scientists. We're seeing more TV shows. We're seeing more programs like the amazing one that Nile's running. But, you know, there's all these different things, and just highlighting and platforming and, you know, just amplifying those amazing projects and those amazing people, because, you know, that'll have its impact and people will want to get involved. Absolutely.
And is the one, Amelia, is the one sector or industry out there, you've talked about the solving crimes, is there anything out there that sort of, you've come from a physics background and physics experience, is there an industry out there that you've gone, just know, I never even saw that, I never even thought that physics was part of that? Are there any out there that you can unearth? Sorry, put you on the spot there.
No, it's fine. I like being part of the spot. It's part of my job. Yeah, I think the big one is within, so I recruit across STEM. So I recruit within pharma, I recruit within within anything from cell chemistry into physics, into straight up pure mathematics. So really interesting. But the thing I've really seen the increasing amount of is within data analysis, and the number of people utilizing data analysis within new models of drug discovery. So there's a new model of drug discovery called it's CAD, but basically computer-aided drug discovery. And it's honestly, people with physics, they're crying for you, because this ability to adapt data and this data interpretation is so key. And in physics, we learn so much of it. We learn, and we do so many mathematics, and we crunch so many numbers. And I think this is it's not something I was aware of, and it's something I've definitely seen an upward trend of within recruiting. More and more people are screaming for people within data analysis, data interpretation, and that folds into the science as well. So there are then clinical scientist roles, which need people from a physics background. And it's really interesting to see this intersection of biology and physics.
Wow. And you obviously come from a multiple STEM background. Krystina, what's the thing that you would say to someone out there that, you know, don't leave it for, it's not just for school. Why would you come back, revisit physics to take it in? We've heard loads of examples today, haven't we? Like Amelia just showed a whole raft of different places that you can go with it. But why should you just not leave it? It's not just for school.
Like we said before, you know, if you're curious, it's something that, for me, I love solving problems, and that's what I get to do as part of my career, and physics is fundamental to that. So you know, if you're curious, if you want to solve problems, it doesn't just end at school. Your career can be that, and if that's what you're passionate about, then do that for your career.
And you know what? Please do check out the podcast that we've got coming out as well. We're talking from people from, whether they be from sort of small entrepreneurial businesses to the Royal Navy to professional services. It's amazing. Actually, it's been a real amazing to sort of join this. And so the last word to you, Nile. What do you say to those 5%? So the 5% that didn't go on to STEM. What would you say to go back to them and go, listen, come back, take a look, because I want 100% return.
I would just say to them, just give it another go. Come and get involved and do some more activities, because you never know. Because it's like, I think Amelia said it before. Physics can take you to a broad of different careers. You don't have to go down a certain route, but you use physics in everyday life. It's not just used in one certain career. So I'd say, come and it's fun to learn as well. Just get involved. And one of the things I would say is that in terms of trying to make it more diverse, one of the big things that we always say in the Blair Project is we have a terminology called see me be me. If you can see somebody that looks like yourself in a certain position, you can aspire to be it. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is launching a new podcast called See Me Be Me, where we invite people from the world of physics, from diverse backgrounds, to come in and speak about their experience, their journey, because a lot of people want to find out, like, where has that person gone down to get to where they are, and even talk about some of the pitfalls that they've experienced as well, so that young person can be like, wow, it's creating relatable people, and so that then they can follow almost in their journey and footsteps. So obviously it's hard back to the role model thing we were talking about, but that will be essential if we want to get that other 5%.
Absolutely. And I've written down here, if I can't see it, then I can't be it. So CBBB, we'll have that one instead. Listen, thank you so much. I've loved having this conversation today. I think, it's highlighted the fact that, irrespective of where you want to go, whether it's about whether you want to be part of changing the world, whether you want to be part of kind of really creating a more diverse community, whether you want to work in weather, whether you want to work in crime, whether you want to work in drug development, whether you want to work in food, it's all out there. It's all out there for you to sort of take part of. So don't think of it, take the stereotypes away. I think we've tried to smash them today. I want to say a massive, massive thank you to my stellar panel today. Thank you so much to Clara, to Krystina, Nile and Amelia. Thank you for letting us into your world of physics today. Forgive me for going on about kinetic and whatever. I'm clearly going to have to get on listen to Crib on your podcast when it comes out as well, Nile. But thank you so much. Please do stay connected. Please do keep the conversation going. That's what this is about. We want people to kind of keep talking about this. We want people to keep discovering why they should lift the lid and make sure that their opportunities are truly limitless. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to keeping the conversation going on all of our socials, at North Powerman on Twitter and at Northern Powerman all the others, and PU Collective and the Power Up Collective. Please do, and stay on all of our information is on our award-winning power platform, wearepower.net. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.